Hello, everybody. Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I'm Andy Signor, and it's time to talk about Rey. Is she a Mary Sue? Everyone talks about it. Well, let's hear from the man himself, J.J. Abrams, who had a big hand in creating this character. He was asked in an interview with Rolling Stone, which we'll go through bits of, but he was asked specifically about Rey. One thing we hear from people is the character of Rey feels preternaturally gifted, even for a Jedi. That she learns things faster than, say, Luke Skywalker ever did. Balls for the reporter for asking. JJ responded, yeah, spooky, right? Smiles. It's not an accident. Maybe Maz Kanata was right. There's something special about her. Why would she know all this stuff? Well, it's good to see that he at least notices this and is trying to fix it from a story perspective. And it's not just that she's that's why we wrote a strong female character. Maybe that's what they did by accident, and now they're trying to save face and give it a reasoning, which would be nice, let's be honest. And then whether they meant to do that or not, doesn't matter. They did it, clearly. But it's interesting. Yeah, he's clearly annoyed by that. That's how I take this. He's sort of just like, yeah, no, I hear the criticism a lot, and it's not an accident. We'll see, obviously, in the film whether he actually is going to answer that question of why it's an accident or not. But what do you guys think? He did this full interview. We just did Kathleen Kennedy's interview. Obviously, everyone's doing the rounds, doing this big press. But I wanted to share some other sort of things he talked about in the film. This is obviously a big deal. Just as Force Awakens, you had a tighter deadline than you might have wanted. Did you have a better sense of how this would be? I don't know if I knew exactly, because this one is so much more ambitious than the first one. It's an ending. It's not a beginning. In the end, it's not just the end of one trilogy, but three. It's a far larger movie in terms of scale, narratively. There's so much more going on everywhere I look. Visual effects, moving pieces. It's the most challenging thing I've ever been involved in by a lot. It's been a breakneck from time that Kathy called me and trying to figure out what and the why and how has been has been challenging. But you don't want to go thinking, I got this, because then you're screwed. Again, only reiterates sort of like the way you make these movies is there aren't 10 cuts. You got to sort of commit. You write your script, and he talks about the script he wrote with Chris Terrio. We'll get there. Why must this be the end? He sort of answers, I don't know why that's discussed, but who knows? I don't know. I'm not going to do any more Star Wars projects, but it just felt like the end. There's a certain reverence in Rian Johnson's approach to The Last Jedi. He subverted some of what you set up. Snoke seemed like the major villain, for instance, and he killed him off. It's a little polite way to sort of like, so you hate the Rian Johnson Last Jedi cut who just sort of took a dump in everything you were doing, JJ? And he plays nice, of course, JJ always does. When I read his first draft, it made me laugh. That could be taken out of context very poorly. Yeah, when I read J.J. Abrams, when he read Last Jedi, he laughed. Because I saw that was his take and his voice. Why would he laugh? It's weird that he laughed. I got to watch cuts of the movie as he was working on it as an audience member, and I appreciated the choices he made as a filmmaker that would probably be very different from the choices I would have made, just as he would have made different choices had he made Episode 9. Or Episode 7. Take that as you will. He's being nice. Were you surprised? What surprised you most in what Rian Johnson did? JJ responded, I felt the biggest surprise was how dark Luke was. Yes. That was the thing I thought, that was unexpected. It's a nice way of saying, why'd you do that? And that's the thing The Last Jedi undeniably succeeds at, which is constant subversion of expectation. That's a good spin. It's the movie that sort of constantly doesn't deliver what you expect it to deliver or want it to deliver. It's the subversion of expectations. Man, JJ's good at this. He should be a politician. The number of things that happen in the movie that aren't the thing that you think is going to happen is pretty fun. How did all these unexpected plot points affect where you brought the story? I've been curious about this too, how he had to write this new one and he sort of threw out what was there. Not only that, but with Collin Trevorrow's thing, which we have a comment on. I'm going to share the Collin Trevorrow thought in a second. But I had a real sense with Force Awakens, Larry Kasdan, about where things would go, potentially. And I think that when I read Ryan's script, what I felt was that with everything that happens in that movie, and quite a lot does, nothing sort of obviated a sense of inevitability where I thought the story could go. So he's sort of saying, he went a place that didn't matter because I still went where I wanted to go. He talks about working really well with Chris Terrio, who knows his Star Wars inside and out, compares him next to Pablo Hidalgo, who's like the gatekeeper of all Star Wars information, and really was there to sort of help him do it. They go on some other things and the joy of making it, and his TED Talks and his mystery box. And then Ray, what was the idea behind Ray? And he says the idea was to tell a tale of a young woman who was innately powerful, innately moral, innately good, but also struggling with her place in the world and forced to fend for herself in every way. As exciting as it was to get to play in the universe, it was this young woman that I felt oddly compelled to get to know. Even at the very first meeting with Kathleen Kennedy, the idea came up about having a female at the center of it. There was an inherent sense of we've seen the story before of the young hero, but we've never seen it through the eyes of a woman like this. And that to me was the most exciting thing. Look, this is where I think a lot of people, critics, have problems. It's like, why really? The whole movie is based on, well, we're going to have a woman do it. Really? Why not just write a good character? Why is it about man or a woman? Why do we have to? I am legitimately confused. And I know there's probably liberal people who are like, oh, Andy, eye roll. But no, for real, why make it all like, no, this one's going to be different because we put a woman in it. Why not just write a good character and then cast a woman? Why do you have to? I don't understand this writing to women. What does that mean? Because the way he wrote the character, and we had a really good fight with, did Ray, is Ray bad in Star Wars? And Jesse Milestone gave a really, really good argument as to why she's not a really good feminist hero, because she really doesn't earn anything. She's just sort of doing it all and knows everything, and she's always following the guys. It didn't really feel like a woman wrote it, so I don't really understand that thing. So I understand that criticism. It doesn't really bother me. I don't really care. I'm all for, representation. Female should be leading Star Wars movies. Absolutely. But the idea of like, let's cast a female and we'll just, it's just, that's the most important thing. I think that's where it's misguided. And I understand why people are upset. I don't think they should be. It's just a movie. And it's good for women to see lead women in the roles of these big sci-fi epics. So that's good. But I don't think the character was well written as a female lead. That's just me. So one criticism of Force Awakens is that it stuck closely to the elements of the first trilogy, but that was sort of the point, wasn't it? It's a clever way of the reporter to be like, yeah, I'm going to knock your movie, but you were kind of doing that on purpose, right? And I completely get the criticism. And for those who found it too much of an overlap, I say I totally hear you and respect the review. But the idea was to continue the story and to begin with this young woman who felt like Luke Skywalker was a myth, and to tell a story that was not just history repeating itself, but a story that embraced the movies that we know as the actual history of this galaxy. So that still is a living place where there is good versus evil. They're still living in the shadow of what has come before, still grappling with the sins of the father and people who preceded it. This was not about a nostalgia play. It felt to me like a way of saying, let's go back to a Star Wars that we know, so we can tell another story. He's admitting he screwed up and then sort of gives a justification, but that is a very fair criticism of the movie. They're not really about the original heroes. That's the other criticism. Was that part of it? Did part of you want this to be more of a Luke, Leia, and Han Solo story? It certainly could have been that story, but it felt like the ways to use them was to be in support of a new story. He's right about that. I do support it, but was the new story as good? Coming off that trilogy, we want to sort of see where these people go. And sadly, Carrie Fisher passed away, so Leia's character is harder to see, but we'll see what happens. But I don't feel like I feel like Han got a little bit of a moment, and we learned about Han and Leia, but they did get sort of shafted. And I don't think Luke really learned anything. He came to be moody, and then, oh yeah, okay, I'm gonna fix this, and then die. It wasn't well done. But anyway, he says, the great thing about Star Wars is that fans, they care so much, and even those that are most cynical and most negative are still people who, for the most part, embrace what's been being done, even just as fodder for debate. All I can say is the main characters in this trilogy felt naturally connected to those characters that came before. And then they just talk about how Bob Iger told him it's a $4 billion pressure, don't screw it up. We talked about Ray, and he talks about George Lucas and his dissatisfaction. And look, he sort of goes on to explain how, yeah, it bums him out that George doesn't like the movies, but he understands why he's in a weird spot. It's like selling one of your kids and then suddenly watching someone else parent your kids. Of course, it's going to be a difficult thing to do. Again, he's been really gracious, so I'm only grateful. Do I wish Force Awakens had been his favorite movie? Yes, I only wanted to do well by him. I would just say that I have nothing but profound respect for the guy, and I'm still truly, even more now, working on these movies is in awe. I'm in awe of what he created. Then he talks about the Rey moment and some other things about it. But anyway, that's the big part of the most important parts. What's interesting, though, follow up, Collin Trevorrow talked about his parts of Rise of Skywalker and his overlap, and he shared some quick comments. And he said, particularly, I'm trying to find it. Bringing back the Emperor was the idea JJ brought to the table when he came on board. Trevorrow says, it's honestly something I never considered. I commend him for it. This was a tough story to unlock, and he found the key. So that was it. So I'm grateful to JJ for embracing some of our ideas. It's exciting that fans will get to see the moments that felt essential to us. I'm not sure who anyone who chooses the creative life should expect things, but I'm grateful to JJ. Yada yada yada. He's more guarded about what his specific work on the script. That's not my place, especially now. Trevorrow says, I know how hard his crew has worked on this, so he's not going to reveal. But he did mention that in Last Jedi, he did do a part in there where he said, I asked Ryan if he could include a little moment where Rey and Poe meet for the first time. They're such beloved characters. It felt right for them to have some history in the next movie. I thought the way he did it was perfect. And that's a valid thing because they've never met. It is weird that a lot of these characters aren't really connecting. So I think that was a good call of Collin Trevorrow to sort of have that moment of, hey, nice to finally meet you. Yeah. So that way when they move forward, we know they all finally met. It was weird they hadn't met before then. But of course, Rey was stuck the whole movie on an island trying to talk Luke Skywalker into being Luke Skywalker. That's why I think a lot of people were frustrated with that movie. But there you go. I think JJ is doing the best he can. He really should be a politician. He's really good at this, answer the questions. He's good at playing for everybody, right? We're dealing with the bosses, dealing with the fans, being likable. I really do give him credit for that. It is a very hard task to start and end this movie. So I applaud him for doing that and keeping at it. We shall see what happens. Again, like I've said in previous videos, I'm not going to go in hating this movie. Let's go in optimistic. Maybe it surprises us. Maybe moments of it can surprise us. And that's all I want. I just want to have something fun in the theaters to enjoy my space adventure. And I hope they deliver a few surprising moments. And then after it sits, we'll get really critical and see where it goes. But let's all pretend, or at least try, to be entertained movie audiences for once and let the cynicism go away and just see if we can be taken to a galaxy far, far away. Because this is the last of the 9. I remember sitting there for the first time with Force Awakens. That was just I was like, yes, it's back. We get one more chance to sort of sit there and hopefully wish for the best. And if it's not, The Mandalorian is kicking pretty good butt, so keep watching that. Tell me what your comments below. Hit me up on social media as always, and be sure to join. Right now, there's a new join feature. You can get exclusive uploads, and you're going to be able to join our after the show Nerd Wars stream called War Stories as well, only through members. So go check out the membership, join it. And tonight, Nerd Wars, a special Friday episode with the amazing Lucas and the Den of Nerds. So come back. We're talking Marvel. It's going to be a lot of fun. 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Have a great day. Bye.